Hello, Dom.
Hey
How
Mike,
are
what's
you?
up?
Not too much. Not too much. Ready for another YouTube video.
I am always ready.
Yeah.
Always.
Yep. Yep. What do they say? I was born ready. So, okay. Well, I'll just say quickly, this is my pick this week. Don't worry, darling, as Florence Pugh is saying behind me, but I think she's very worried. But many of us are. But anyway, I will let you go ahead and introduce this. Um,
So don't worry, darling. We are introduced to this idyllic couple, Alice and Jack, in an idyllic setting. It's like this beautiful Californian, I want to say early to mid 60s.
yeah, that's the perceived time.
And these people are living the dream. They've
Yeah.
got a beautiful house, happily married, um, good job, although very secretive job.
Yes.
But
Much like the government workers of the nuke years. But yes.
exactly, very much like that.
Yes.
Very much like that. But over time, we start to see cracks in this idyllic setting. We start to sense that something's wrong, and we're not the only ones. Jack's wife, Alice, starts to sense that as well. And when she starts questioning that, when she starts looking deeper into something that just isn't right, there's some pushback.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she starts to realize that the reality they're living in is not real.
No, and some of it is actually, and it's not just her, it's some of the other wives, but very few of them. Every once in a while, one of them will get some kind of almost like a deja vu kind of thing. And this movie is very much um, like it's got an element of the Stepford Wives in it.
It's
Um,
very uh, I've read a few reviews. I will be quoting certain reviews I've
yeah.
read, and one of them said that it's almost criminal that the director Olivia Wilde is not paying Ira Levine
Well,
royalties.
yeah, it's really funny on this movie because, and I'll ask your opinion in a minute, but I was gonna say um, this movie was actually um, my good friend Erica, her one of her daughters, Brittany, had actually asked me if I'd seen this movie, and I said no. I heard a lot about it, but I haven't seen it. And she had seen it and liked it, and she said a lot of people criticize the movie. There's a lot of social media backlash about it, and so she said, but I liked it, and so I said, well, I'll check it out, and I did. I watched the movie, and I was very enamored of it. I really enjoyed it. Um, I mean, goes without saying, I like Florence Pugh, and I felt she was great in this. But but at the same time, like I had read a lot of stuff about on social media. There was a lot of mess on the studio, apparently, and it does seem to me that um, there was an affair going on with Olivia Wilde and her and what's his
Harry
name?
Styles.
Yeah, Harry Styles, the main male star that's Florence Pugh's husband on this, and it sounded like there was even like women on the set that were competing for a relationship with them and all kinds of craziness. And apparently, Olivia Wilde had also was accused by the people on the set of being distracted because she was more into the affair than she was into directing the film, including the point that to the point that Florence Pugh actually took over some of the directorial stuff, and a lot of the film had to be But I thought the end result, and having said all of that, I thought the end result was a pretty effective movie. And so, the other element that I felt with this, even though it was Stepford Wives-esque, it also goes along. You have so many people now that talk about the idea that we're living in a simulation, and there's people that speculate um, that like there's almost like an 80% chance. I don't see how they figure it's that high, but that there are people that theorize that there's like an 80% chance that we ourselves are living in a simulation. And all I can say is if I got cheated out of my simulation because
Yeah, this simulation sucked.
yeah, my simulation really sucks. And if there's anybody listening that actually controls the simulation, can you
Like if
fix
we
it?
could tweak some of the controls, like we could
Yeah,
do better
because
here.
there's some problems here. But anyway, so yeah, and there definitely was elements of that because there actually is a portal, and if there this was based off a book, and apparently the book like got more into the whole idea of the portals, and that was your way out, that was your escape. But so now I've got to ask you, what was your opinion? Because I love this movie. Not everybody does. What's your opinion?
Oh man. So if this movie were an eight-cylinder car,
Yeah.
only six cylinders are firing.
Well, I don't know.
But like
I
I gotta
if
say,
they
like
are,
like
if they are,
um
it's a good six cylinder.
like Florence Pugh is the shining jewel.
Oh, absolutely.
So another review I'm going to quote is someone said that I really hope that Olivia Wilde, the director, is paying Florence Pugh's chiropractic bills for carrying the entire weight of the movie.
Well,
So
she's amazing. She's
she is
amazing.
amazing. But between her and Chris Pine,
Yeah.
this guy behind me,
Yeah.
um, uh, they were phenomenal. Acting overall was okay. It was competent. These
Oh, I
two were
thought it was,
shining.
yeah, I thought it was
These
very
two were
competent.
shining
Yeah.
stars. The movie itself is gorgeous.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Like
beautifully shot. The scenery is beautiful, the cars, the costuming, everything.
all of it. Like 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Look at
Beyond
those
it.
cars, man. Look at those
I know.
cars.
I know. But the story had so many plot holes. The story was it was ultimately so ridiculous to me. It took me out of the movie. Like you talk about suspension of disbelief. This movie stretched it to the breaking point for me. And it took the movie down for me.
Yeah, see, I didn't really have a whole um I didn't really have a whole lot of problems with the story or the story. Like I looked at it as what it was. I mean, especially as it unfolds, you really start to realize what's going on here and why, because every wife, the movie is set like you said. The movie is set like it's in either the late 50s or early 60s, kind of. All the cars kind of represent that. A
Mhm.
lot of the shirts the men are wearing, the slacks, all the dresses, the beach wear, everything like that. The TV sets there, you don't see any big screen LCDs or OLEDs or whatever you see. The kitchens, everything is the glasses on this doctor. It's like 50s, 60s kind of glasses that people wore. Everything is fits and the records and the music is all right out of the 60s. And so it's definitely set like that. But obviously, when you realize what's going on, everybody has gone through, and apparently a lot of them unwillingly have gone through pretty much a mind reprogramming. And they had to basically let themselves get brainwashed or unwillingly and unknowingly get brainwashed. And that's the problem when Florence Pugh starts, when she starts like really looking into what's going on. She's getting these like weird flashbacks. She's happily cleaning her house, preparing dinner every night, and happily servicing her man when he comes home from work. The
Although more often than not, we see him happily servicing her.
That's true. That's true. And there's actually quite a quite a sexy little scene on a dining room table that that actually is, yeah, he's actually quite an attentive husband, but he is also, what you find out is that um he actually, and this is the big crime of what is going on. Apparently it's mostly the men, but you do find out later that some of the women are complicit in it too. But mostly it's
You
men
find
who
that
have,
one of the woman is complicit in it.
yes, the one that's right behind you right there.
Yeah,
Um,
this
but
one.
for her for sure, but also um, is his name Frank, the head guy there? What's his
Yeah,
name? Yeah,
yep,
his wife is obviously one of the big ones
that
that's
is
in on
true.
it
That is true.
and helps to keep all the other. She she's like the, if he was a pimp, which he almost is, she's she's the pimp's, like, what do they call it? The bottom hoe, the one that keeps all the other hoes in line. That's kind of what she does to. That's how she acts for all the other chicks in the movie, because she helps if they step out of line, she helps to keep them on track, including running an exercise. They're all keeping themselves beautiful and in shape for their husbands, and so that they're all like, because that's the whole thing is you must present a perfect image, and that's part of the whole deal, or you can get yanked. And everybody has this background idea. Yeah, that's the programming device. And the real sad, and the probably the worst crime that her husband commits against her is that she is completely unaware that she was put into this and programmed like this to become like a Stepford wife. And the weird thing is he had to do it to himself too, because he also underwent it. And I mean, that in itself is crazy, that he had to be programmed himself. So he's locked into a role. In fact, he wasn't an Englishman, but in this, when he's in this thing, when he's in this whatever it is simulation, he's actually an Englishman, but there he is being programmed also. He was a bum that was out of work, wasn't even like properly fixed. He wasn't even a good house husband, because she's going to work. She's working as a doctor. She's a surgeon, and she's got a life that, even though it's very hectic and hard, and he's very unsatisfied because he never sees her, and he's not doing well with work or anything else. But she's got this like real busy, tough life, but she still is fulfilled in her, and he does not give her any kind of knowledge or consent, and he just puts her into this thing. And when she,
Okay, so here is where it begins becoming absolutely unbelievable. Like at a basic level, when you see what their relationship was prior to the simulation,
right,
why would she be with this guy? She's
well,
a smart, accomplished woman, and if this guy were loving, it doesn't even like if he were a loving loser, I could see it. But
dumb.
he's not even pleasant to be around.
Well, I think things are getting, when this takes off, when you actually realize like when it happened in their relationship. I believe he was I believe he was on a downslide, and because she kept saying to him, she when she comes home from work, um, it's obvious that because apparently he had lost his job. That was the
Mhm.
other thing, and he couldn't find a job. And so she would come home and she'd be asking him about his work, whether he found anything, and whether he made any headway or progress. And he's constantly saying, "No, I didn't." And then he's acting like he wants uh, something out of their relationship, like spending time over dinner or love making or something like that. And she's like, I'm operating on like 6 hours of sleep, and I got to get up in like 5 hours and go back to the hospital. And so he's looking at that like, oh, well, your life is so unhappy. Well, she wasn't unhappy. She loved what she was doing, even though it wasn't easy, and she was working harder because of the guy. But in the argument about as far as like why was she with him, all I've got to say to you, Dom, is look around at couples in the world and America
And,
certainly.
and you're
There are
right.
so many people with somebody that think to yourself, wow, this person's so together. Why are they with this other person?
And you're right. I started at the lowest level.
Yeah.
So let me go up the second level.
Okay.
Okay. Someone, Frank, I would assume,
Yeah.
or the doctor, and Frank was the
Yeah.
front man, created this device
Yeah.
that was put over the eyes and would stick them in the simulation.
Right.
This like uber advanced, the Matrix like virtual
Yeah.
reality simulation.
Right.
Something that is like beyond any tech that we have, something that governments would kill for,
Right.
that governments would trade nuclear weapons for. And this out of work schlob gets in. Like, how is
Well,
he paying for it? Like,
he
how are
was
they making money? What's the business model?
he was recruiting people probably on social media.
To what
And
end though?
what's
He's
that?
not making any money from these people.
I don't know what was the exact deal with what they were doing because they whether or not they're like their minds, it's almost a little bit like saying that same thing about the movie The Matrix. Who's profiting off the Matrix? Well, it's the machine. And so at some point when the Matrix came about, somebody invented the Matrix and started putting
Well,
everybody in
I mean, the
these.
Matrix, the original Matrix, which Olivia Wilde has said that both the Matrix and Inception were major influences
Sure.
on this movie. With the Matrix, you had aliens that came down, took over Earth, were using humans as batteries, as an
Right.
energy source, and were putting them in the Matrix to make them docile and controllable.
Yeah.
So they were getting something out of it. What the heck is this guy getting out of it? This guy doesn't even have a job. Like,
Well,
I could see if he was selling to rich people, if there are millionaires putting their wives into this.
well, I felt like it was the same deal with this as a lot of a lot of movies like, the whether it's the Stepford Wives or Westworld
But
or
again, these are rich people. They're billing this to ultra wealthy people.
yeah. Well, I mean many of the people there's all obviously got to be some kind of there's obviously got to be some kind of lucrative thing that he's creating out of this. And he keeps telling them you're really lucky to be a part of this whole thing. Now the book, and I haven't read the book, but the book goes into more detail. I do know that. And the book had a different ending. They fought for this other ending, but it's definitely different in the book how it's explained, and I think there's probably a lot more detail. There was enough here that it you just had to get beyond the thing of they're here, they've created this, and again, it's very much like a simulation. Um, so it's once you get past that, and that she's stuck in that, then you got to go with the reality of all these women are stuck in this simulated world where they're basically kind of like set up to be housewives, much like it was in the, you know, back in the, you know, back in the, 60s and late 50s, and please your man because, you know, that was what they did back then. So, like I said, that was the big, to me, that was the big, you know, thing you had to
And I get
wrap your head around.
I get what they were trying to say. It's just that I know enough about reality that the setup, it took me out of the story. Like I couldn't stick with the story because this woman is bedridden. Well, in the simulation, she's going to die. How does she get nutrition? How does she get
No,
hydration?
no, no, no. Somebody. No, no. They were being maintained
I did
because,
not see that. I did not see
well,
any
yeah, but
IVs. I didn't see
you
anyone
do
moving
hear
their
that.
limbs.
What you do hear it because there's a certain point there where her friend actually says, "You're like you've got to get out. They're going to kill you. They're going to kill your if you die in here, they're going to kill your body out there." That actually is said. And so that part right there, to me, it was just she suddenly realized the peril. She had to get out, and she had to head for that.
But even
The
if she did not, long term, she's going to die being bedridden like that.
I don't
Like
know.
you
People,
cannot survive long
pe-
term in
well,
that way.
people live for a long time in a coma state. There's people that have spent 20, 30 years in a coma.
With very intensive round the clock coverage.
Well, somebody had to be taking care of them.
I and that was
I,
not explained. If that was the case, that was not mentioned in
yeah.
any way.
Well, I definitely felt like that was implied. It was a big part of what you had to accept of what the story was.
And if
So
that was the case, who cared if she escaped? They've got her.
I mean, I feel like you're arguing the thing of, when somebody starts talking about the bridge of the Enterprise. Oh, well, they would never put the bridge there. And it's like, just enjoy the damn movie. And yeah, maybe they wouldn't. And if you were, designing a starship, maybe you wouldn't put the bridge there. Maybe you'd set the bridge back. But but um, but it's still the show's a great show, isn't it? You're enjoying it. So
But the thing is like the whole bridge, like I have no idea what their technology is in the year 2400. I have no idea why they would or would not put the bridge there or what the decision is. It's not enough to take me out of Star Trek. There were enough things in this movie that I could not stick with the movie.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't have any problem. I didn't have any problem sticking with it. Like I said, it was to me it was something that was so beautifully done. The way it was filmed, the
The
just
movie is gorgeous.
what they gave you for the characters. The setting was like 1960s Palm Springs, where everybody would do their weekend in Palm Springs, and the Rat Pack would go there, and it was very much like that. It was I don't know. Like I said, I looked at it as just a beautiful film that had enough peril and threat to it to and I like the way it unfolded where it starts out she's looking like she's living in this idyllic setting where everybody's there. The wives are all kind of superficially happy because they've been programmed to be. And it's all about like just do whatever you can. Your man's doing something very important when
Well,
he goes to
that is
work every
another
day.
thing.
What's
Like, how
that?
many of those wives were real? And the reason I say this is because when they're in the real world and Jack, the husband, is doing his intake, they list pre-existing partner and
Yeah.
they list it as if that is not the norm. Like, I'm wondering if a lot of the men in that simulation have women that are not real.
Um, it's that's a possibility, but they do at one point when you're listening to, I guess it's Frank explaining the whole idea to him. He said something about 70 couples um, that you're going to be part of. Are you ready to do this? Because you're going to be a part of 70, like, and maybe there were some lesser ones too, like, you know, worker drones and the kids that her neighbor had there,
That
Olivia.
Bunny had.
Yes, Bunny. Um, and Bunny's the one that actually ultimately does tell her, you got to get out of here. Um, but yeah, so as far as like, as far as uh, the characters, um, I believe it was supposed to be 70, so there were probably some lesser there were lesser characters in this. But yeah, so I don't know. All I can say is, how many they had set up. Her kids, that's what I meant to say was her kids, apparently, because she says to her Bunny, your kids aren't even real. And she said, in here they are. And she said, back there, I lost them. Now, how did she lose them? Did she lose them because she was an unfit mother? Did she lose them because
I mean, we get no clues why she lost them. It could have been
right,
for any.
but right, and that's one of the things, and that probably is one of the things that's bothering you about the film is that it doesn't maybe give you enough background into each one of the people or what's or even just there's the kids and but yeah you don't get that so that's something you kind of gotta go with the idea that obviously for some of these people their lives outside of this simulation was really horrible. It was something that they did not want to live. And so because of that, they voluntarily chose to. Now, who knows? Her husband might have been one of the ones that maybe he was forced to. And the ironic part is at one point, her and Harry Styles are arguing. Florence Pugh and Harry Styles, they're arguing, and she's saying, "You stole my life from me." And he says, "You think this is easy for me? You think I like going to work like this every day?" And it's like, so he was probably feeling caught up in the whole thing himself, even though he created this thing that she was forced to participate in. But it's
I
kind of
mean,
like,
actually, that would have helped the movie out a lot if we could have seen what his life was like
right,
outside of this. That would have really
yeah.
helped
Well,
because
I mean, hey, I'm not saying it couldn't have been fleshed out more, but at the same time, I like what they gave us, and I found myself very intrigued by the plot. Um, and hey, Florence Pugh looks great. I mean, everybody looks great in this. It's
as yes,
including the cars. The cars are unbelievable. It's it's like it's so terrifically shot that the neighborhoods. I've seen just recently. I was watching a few things on Palm Springs, like during because all the all the Rat Pack had homes there. I mean, everybody did. Everybody from, like I said, all the Rat Pack members, many movie stars had homes there. Liberace. I mean, it was a gay community for a while there too. Probably still is. It's but Palm Springs was this like perfect place to go to. Great weather, and it was fun to go for weekends or.
so
But yeah, his what's yeah
that house that they lived in,
yeah
that's the Kaufman house.
yeah I heard that. But what is the Kaufman House?
The Kaufman house is one of the prime examples of mid-century modern architecture.
Yeah, yeah,
This is a house that was like so many other houses were based on, particularly in Palm Springs,
Yeah.
And this is the first film to ever be filmed in the Kaufman House. The Kaufman House has been famous for a while.
Yeah.
No one has been allowed to film there
Uh,
until this movie.
I had heard that it was the first time it had been filmed interior wise, but this, if I ever won, people talk about like, oh, if I won the lottery tomorrow, if I won Powerball, like I don't want a mansion. What I would love is a mid-century modern ranch like that. That's exactly that's my like dream home. That's that's exactly what I want to live in is a ranch. Um,
Barry Manilow lived there.
did he? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he owned it for a while.
I could see Barry Manilow living there, but no, like I said, I think I don't know. Like I said, it's such a beautiful movie. It's with and granted that was supposed to be, but beautiful people, beautiful costumes, and it's to me the plot was just enough to make it interesting, fun, even a little bit chilling and terror filled to a certain degree. So yeah, I mean, plenty of good sex. um, but and I love some of the dialogue with this dinner party was such an awkward scene where because he that damn Frank the scene where she's out in the kitchen and
Yep.
she did set him up for that too because she was getting on to what was going on. And so she invited him there, and he had a thing for her too. For if she had stayed there, Frank would have eventually tried to put the moves on her because he was already trying to do it. And but he came out in the kitchen and he was so insulting to her. And this is a woman that's obviously very intelligent. She's a surgeon. She's got her shit together in her old life, and she's feeling really out of place here. And he says all these comments to her like, "I had such hopes for you, and you were, I love a challenge." And he's saying all these things, and he goes, and he made some remarks about her, like being like, um, she's figuring stuff out, and he goes, "And yet you're here, like a good girl, like cutting up vegetables." And that infuriated her. And when she came back to the table, that's when she proceeds to just totally start cutting things down. And it's so awkward for the husband because he's just trying to have her be a
I
good
mean,
little
it's
wife.
awkward for all of them because she's pointing out the inconsistencies in the reality.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
they're all like realizing,
Yeah. Well, she says to one of the women like, so where did you two meet? And then she goes, yeah, isn't that where you two met? And she's pointing out all these this similar towns and places and things that happen, and because the experiences, obviously this wasn't too sophisticated what they were programming them with because they used similar backgrounds instead of instead of varying the backgrounds of how they met and places that they were at and things like that. But yeah, like I said, it's to me it was just fun. It was absolute fun. It was chilling. It was there was just enough going on that it kept me entertained the entire time, and I mean right up to the very end. And so yeah, and even that the whole experience that she had with the her friend there, the one that cut her throat, and she saw her cut her throat in front of her, um, and they're trying to tell her, oh no no, she she didn't cut her throat, she just fell. And it's like, yeah, she didn't just fall, and she's saying, of course, she's got a medical background, even though it's she's been brainwashed, and she's saying, how did you save her from that? Like how did you bring her around? She slit her throat, right? And so, like I said, it was such to me, it was such fun the way they unfolded the story. I loved it, and
so
uh, right
this
down to the
woman,
yes,
Bunny, the
yeah,
neighbor,
yes,
That's Olivia Wilde.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I
she
knew.
both directed and acted in it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she was doing a lot of things. She was screwing Harry Styles too.
It's true.
So,
This is true.
so
She
think of
was
all the things.
supposed to be Alice. She was supposed to be in Florence Pugh's role.
Really.
Yeah,
Well,
and Florence Pugh was supposed to be in her role. When Olivia Wilde saw Florence Pugh in Midsummer,
yeah.
he's like, no, 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 you're the lead.
Well, absolutely, she's the lead. And Midsummer's another one. I've been wanting to do Midsummer really badly. I am absolutely,
Great movie. We're gonna do it at some point.
yeah, we will because I love that movie. And yeah, like I can't say enough. Florence Pugh is not only a great actress, and she really is. She's beautiful. She's versatile. I mean, you and I were just discussing the whole role of her as what's her name, the Marvel, the oh come
Yeah,
on,
Yelena.
yes, oh my God, she's so damn funny in that. I mean, she's so damn funny in that,
Yeah,
and
man. This is my favorite role of her. Like
yeah,
with Midsummer coming a close second,
yeah,
she is so hilarious in this
yeah.
role.
Oh, absolutely. The dialogue that goes back and forth between these two. This is one we definitely have to do this movie because Black Widow because it's so good and the interaction that they have. I mean, they are so funny together. And one of them says something and then the other one just and a lot of it was ad-libbing too. So we absolutely have to do that later on. But no, I liked it and I liked it right this movie here right to the end when she ends up here and this isn't the end scene because this is when she sees the plane crash, uh, which I'm not sure what the deal was with that.
Yeah, and
Obviously,
that's the thing. There were so many things that were like, and that happened. Why?
yeah. Well, it was what do we what's one of the terms that we use a lot? It was a glitch in the matrix. So yeah, I mean, I do believe that sometimes because when one of the player characters in this would react a certain way, you would see all the other ones reacting real funny. And it was like it was pulling them out of whatever their reality had been programmed into them. And suddenly you're there's a glitch in the matrix. So I believe the day that that plane crash happened, somebody was experiencing something that maybe overlapped into her head, but whatever it was, it caused her to see it and so it got her distracted and that is probably what happened with her friend that slit her throat is she probably got distracted by something that maybe or there was something going on because she took her kid out. I think she was trying to escape with the kid.
Yeah, but
That's
again, who knows if that was actually a real kid?
yeah, it might not have been, but to her, but to that woman, she probably thought to herself, okay, I got to get my kid out of here, whether the kid was programmed into it or whether it was really her kid. But once again, like I said, I love this movie. It is one of my favorite roles for Florence Pugh. My favorite role so far that she's done, and I think she's got a long career ahead of her. She's actually up for an Academy Award for a movie this year, I believe, and and she's just wonderful. But Midsummer so far is the one that I love that movie.
That's a
It's
great movie.
I watched that movie and the scene where they're tripping on mushrooms. I'm watching the movie and I'm sitting there totally straight, nothing, no, not even a drink or anything in me. I'm sitting there watching the movie and I was like, wow, I feel like I'm high. It was that movie is wonderfully shot, and that's another one. But again, that was probably the first time that I actually really recognized Florence Pugh as an actress and was like, wow, she's great. And every time I've seen her, she just stuns me. I mean, like I said, she's beautiful to look at, but my God, she's got acting chops. She's really good. So
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I definitely have my problems with this movie,
yeah,
but if there is one reason to see this movie, it is her.
oh yeah, absolutely. And it's to me, it's one of the reasons why you really need to see this movie because she's so damn good in it. And I wouldn't say
She's
that.
so damn good.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that there are other because her some of the supporting players are quite good. Um, I mean,
Man,
Harry
Harry
Styles
Styles
does
was a mistake.
he does a competent job. I think they
He
were
does a
all.
competent job, and that's the
Yeah,
highest praise I can give.
yeah. But really, to tell you the truth, she made the movie, and she
Yeah,
made the movie so much that I don't think, like, to me, everybody else was like satellites around her. She was just so good at what she was doing.
do you
But
know who was supposed to play her husband?
no, who?
Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I'm to tell you the truth, I actually am glad. I like him in some things, but I don't think he would have been good in this.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah,
He could have been just atrocious, or he could have been spectacular.
yeah.
I honestly
What
don't. He is
I
such a loose cannon that
that's the problem, Dom. That's my problem with him is that I look at him like a loose cannon, that he's either going to bring you like a really terrific performance, or it's like, man, I wish they hadn't cast him. And so that's why when you say that, I think to myself, I don't know, like, should they have cast him in it? But I don't know. I think she just ran with this, and I really don't think that like anybody else had a prayer of making the impact that she had in this movie. She was just that good to me. So I don't know. Maybe I'm giving her too much praise, but I don't think so. I think she was just
no,
that
you're
good.
not. You're not. Again, like she is in my mind, she is the reason to see the movie. That and the camera work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. This scene here, I found to be the scene behind me and also behind you. I found to be probably one of the most awkward and also one of the weirdest. It was almost Lynchian.
That is the scene that makes this movie approach horror.
Yes, absolutely.
Him dancing almost like he had no control of
He
himself.
didn't. He didn't, Dom. That was the thing that was really there was so much going on in this one scene. And again, you see Florence Pugh, um, terrific acting. She's really breaking apart. She needs to get out of the room. And first of all, it started on one of those horrible, like Mad Men type of error roles for men that they would sometimes stick their wives and women in. And it starts out with this woman is basically the one behind you is basically a stripper.
Do you
And
know who that is?
no, I didn't know who the actress was. She seemed familiar.
Oh my God, I cannot believe they got someone of her caliber for
Right.
that role.
Who was it?
That's Dita Von Teese.
Oh, okay. Oh, geez. Yep, I absolutely know her. Yes. Wow. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
like
I didn't
you're gonna
realize
get
that.
her for like a minor. Was she even on for like 3 minutes?
Yeah, but she was still she was very effective. It was the scene is actually like really well done. And but I was and I'm also thinking to myself because it was I mean it was a little bit and Montes is burlesque and it was very much like a burlesque type of thing too, but it was also like had elements of like the cheap strip clubs that they used to have in the late 50s and early 60s that men would go to, like after hours with for work related stuff, but yeah,
Work related
work
stuff.
related, yeah. And you took your business, your account card in there, and you charge the drinks and the whole thing off to it's business expense. But yeah, the wives and Florence Pugh is just kind of like breaking down, and I got to get out of here. Please get me out of here. And he's completely ignoring her, which it was awkward for him because his boss is actually like trying to give him the keys to the kingdom. But that whole element when she escapes to the ladies' room to have herself a cry, really, she's breaking down. He gets him up on stage, gives him the ring, and when he gives him the ring, um, that whole scene, he does become a puppet, and that dance for us, and he's an out of control puppet,
Mhm.
and that scene is like, oh my God, scary, freaky.
It's totally freaky.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was just like, wow, there's something else going on here. And there's, and I see, I did like that about the movie because I know you were saying that, for you, like it was like too much of a, um, not enough, background and filler. But I looked at this as, and again, this is something I actually enjoy about movies. I like it when they kind of let you fill in the blanks. And this is one that I was able to fill in some blanks for my own benefit. And I explained what I didn't have the fill for. I was able to explain, for me, I was able to explain it. But yeah, I get it. I get why some people probably just, you know, got irritated by it. But for me, it was just fun. So I don't know. I'm glad I brought it to you. I'm glad I made you watch it. I'm sorry you didn't like it as much as I did, but man, I love it. And so I've shown this to a few people, and I do have to say that most did like it. Most of the people that I showed it to definitely liked it. But
It's not a bad movie.
yeah,
There are worse ways you could spend what's the runtime? 123 minutes.
yeah,
Um, uh, but yeah, it's not one of the greatest movies I've seen.
yeah. Well, I again for me it was quite enjoyable, but I get it. I get why you're saying, what you're saying, and I, I, again, for me, it's probably just a agree to disagree,
Yeah,
and
totally.
and hey, you gotta love that car too.
Oh my God. Again,
That
I've got
Corvette.
no problem with the
Yeah,
sets, the costuming. That was so perfect. The whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Perfect.
When she's escaping in that car at the end, all I could think of was that Corvette when those cars were chasing after her. It's like, girl, all you got to do is put your foot to the floor because that car could have outrun anything that was there. It was that Corvette was not only a beauty, but it was fast. And not to say that some of those other cars weren't quick, but that Corvette would have outrun them all. It's a beautiful car, and it's funny too because I noticed they were probably pulling that on a trailer or something. There's no way she was driving that in that scene, but they were just like towing that on the back of a flatbed or something.
Well,
But
I'm willing to bet someone was driving it, but it was not her.
yeah, it was yeah. But I noticed too, like, because in the shots where she's just like there on the street, it's a beautifully restored or wonderfully kept car that's immaculate. But they would every once in a while they'd show you a scene when the car was like driving out there, and it was you could see that they were the one that she was in then had like flaws. It had rust and chips in the paint and things like that. And it's like, yeah, that's not the same car you see behind me right there, because that's the showpiece one. But but no, like I said, I don't know. I just truly enjoyed this movie. I'm glad I brought it to everybody, um, and I'm glad I made you watch it.
I'm glad I saw it.
It's
I
yeah,
mean, I feel like I feel about it, but I'm glad I saw it.
yeah, yeah. So again, like I said, I I look at this as a movie that I'm not going to say it doesn't have flaws, and not mostly because probably Olivia Wilde's you know distraction on the set and the problems that were on the set, I'm sure had something to do with it. But I do hear a lot of people just describing this as a mess, social media was terrible on this, and it seemed like they just got into the personal life of what was going on with the people behind the set, on the set, and they just like were critical because it's like let's all like bitch at Olivia Wilde, and maybe she truly deserved it, but at the same time, the end result here was, to me, I thought was a pretty entertaining film. So I was just happy enough.
So I made sure I went into this cold. I had no idea what social media said about anything.
Yeah.
However, after watching it, I did delve into that. And at least half of what was going on was absolutely baseless.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what very few people recognized is that a lot of the filming was done during COVID.
Yes. Yes. And there's a couple of films that were made during COVID that ended up having flaws,
And
including
I'm
this
like, you
one.
got to take that into account.
Yeah. And to me, the very fact that they got this damn movie made, I think that's high praise right there. And then again, look at Florence Pugh. She's beautiful. so,
You got no
so
argument. I mean,
I had to throw that in, but no, like I said, um, you know, to me, it's a very fun movie. I love movies too, where like you start realizing like there's some kind of like diabolical plot behind the scenes, and it's these evil manipulators behind the scene. And in a lot of ways, this is very much a feminist movie and too, because it's the whole thing of, let's face it, we're guys, but let's face it, it's the men controlling woman kind of thing, keeping them behaving, the way we want them to behave. And that was an element to this. So that's why people say, oh, it's a ripoff of the Stepford Wives. It is to a point, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. Um, but yeah, it's an effort to also control a woman, and I mean, this woman had a life of her own. She was a very intelligent woman, and she's basically been reduced to just being a stay-at-home housewife. Cooking good dinners for her men, keeping the house cleaned as spotless as she can for it, and she's completely happy in the role of. And again, this is a woman that had a life of as a surgeon, so it's like he didn't exactly say to her, "What would you think, honey, if we just suddenly like went into this like really cool simulation where we were living like they did back in the 1960s?" I have a feeling she would say no. So
well, I
so
mean, I think almost any simulation, like, you know,
I don't know,
I
dude.
can't
If
imagine
you
how
gave me a good
crappy
enough
your
simulation,
life would have to be to like give it all up to stay in bed
yeah,
24/7 and live
well,
an
that's
imaginary
true.
life.
That's true. If you think of it in those terms, where you're actually staying in bed. If you think of it in those terms, like if that's what you've got to be reduced to, and you do have to ask yourself when people say, "Oh, maybe there's a chance we're living in a simulation." It's like, well, if that's the case, where's our body and what's being done with it?
Well, I mean, if that's the case, I assume that I am a simulation as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's true. Like if you didn't actually if you were just some kind of computer, you know, you're an NPC, what's the name of the movie with
Free
Ryan
guy.
Reynolds? Yes. Oh my God, that's so good. I love that movie. That's another one that we should do
But
sometime.
I mean, he even addresses it like when he Ryan Reynolds, the main character, I can't think
Yeah.
of his name. He says to his friend that we're living in a simulation. We're not real. And the friend replies to him like, "Look, I love my wife, I love my job, I do my day. What's not real?
Right. Yeah.
And in reality is what we perceive."
That's true. That's very true. So yeah, I mean, believe me, sometimes you look at you look at what we see as reality. You think to yourself, this can't be real. This can't be really happening. So, but yeah, I feel like I've probably said as much as I could say. Uh, Florence Pugh is beautiful. I'll repeat that. And but no, I think it was really cool and intriguing to watch. And I hope if anyone's watching us that has never seen this before, and you're at all curious, I I would urge you to check it out and give it a watch. It's a fun watch. Whether you think it's it's uh, maybe it's not Lawrence of Arabia, but it's at the same time, it's a fun watch. And
It, it's a gorgeous movie. The soundtrack is phenomenal.
oh my God, it's great. The
The
soundtrack is
music is
great.
great,
I love the
and
music.
Florence Pugh is a gem.
Yes.
It has its flaws. There are definitely better movies, but it's not the worst movie to see.
No, 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 it's good fun. Great costuming. If you're someone that's at all into costuming, certainly late 50s, early 60s
If
fashion.
you're into this period, you'll be in heaven.
It's a fashion show. It really is. Absolutely. Everybody looks gorgeous on the sets are they're very true to the period. It's the houses, all the architecture around there. I mean, even things like, you look the scene behind me there with the little pedal car. That's a real pedal car. I had one very similar, a fire truck that was, I'm telling you, that was very, very similar. I wish I still had kept that. but but yeah, it's like I said, early 60s, late 50s kind of decor. And I loved how the interior, it was all like it was all the early TVs and radios. They start talking about one of the guys is going, "Oh wow, you have that console record player." And it was like that was state of the art because that's the times even though they were from modern times, they were living in a late 50s, early 60s environment. But yeah, just really cool film. Um, and once again, I love the scene where she's putting her hands up against the glass of the and that was another thing. I think that like when she got there, that was the undoing of what was going on because as soon as she touched that was the portal, and she probably almost went through it.
Yep.
Um, because I mean, she woke up in bed unconscious later, and she said, "How did I get here?" And he's like, "Well, I guess you took the trolley back." And it's like, yeah, it probably popped her back into the simulation. But yeah, and that was another thing, and I think they explained it better when they were talking about the original ending in the book. But when they were saying in this one, you hear her gasp and as she touches the glass and the way the movie ends. So she got out, but and of course, what happened to everybody else that was in there too, because she left a mess behind her. so, but yeah, like I said,
Although Shelley took over.
that's true. Yeah, that was one of the cool things. She stabs Frank, and
Yep.
she takes over. So there were some cool things that did happen. But yeah, again, for me, I know we were wrapping this up before, but I just saying again, for me, it was too much fun. That's all I'll say. It was too much fun. So yeah, I've said all I can say about it, Dom.
Yeah, I've
So
said all I can say.
yep. Please, anyone watching, if you would leave a like and subscribe. I give this two thumbs up. Dom, I don't think gives it more than a thumb.
I
But
give it one thumb up. It's got
yeah,
merits. It it's not. I don't see myself rewatching this.
see, I've already seen it at least three times, and if I talked to somebody that said they had never seen this before, I would say, "Oh, well, you got to see it," and I would sit down and watch with them like I'd do it right now. So, and not just because Florence Pugh is incredibly beautiful or that she doesn't uh, eat the scenery up doing a wonderful acting job, but hey, look at those costumes behind us and or behind me there, and look how wonderfully done this film is. It's terrific, and that scene behind you with those guys in the red suits climbing up after her, that was like, oh my God, they're coming for her. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh no, like please get away. But
That scene behind you,
yeah.
that's Olivia Wilde's real daughter.
Oh, is it really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, see, that was one of the things because I know, like, when they were going on and on about, oh, she's having an affair with Harry Styles and stuff like that. I think that's one of the things they were saying. Oh, she brought her. That's what I think I had heard was, oh, she brought her kids on the set. Well, that's her personal life, and maybe she did expose them to something, but Joan Crawford was a lot worse. So that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, Dom, I'm glad you saw it.
Yeah, so am I.
And For me, it's a huge success. I love this movie, but I'd love to know what other people think. We don't get enough people leaving comments, and please, if you agree or disagree with either me or Dom, let's get some votes. Let's see who agrees, who
And
disagrees.
this is a movie that should bring some opinions.
It should. It really should. It's every once in a while we bring one that you have to say is, do you like it? Do you hate it? What do you think of it? So this is definitely one. Let's hear what people think. But Dom, I have to ask you now at this point. Do you have a movie? You're next week. You're up next week.
I do, and I'm going to choose a movie that neither one of us have seen.
Really? How do you know that?
I guess I don't. I guess I don't. I'm assuming you haven't seen this.
Right, and
But
probably haven't.
our next video is going to be very close to Valentine's Day.
Okay.
I felt obliged to pick a rom-com,
Okay.
and I've been wanting to see the movie Spontaneous for a
Okay.
while now.
Yeah, I actually I'm drawing a blank. Um, who's in it? Or
I don't know.
okay, all
I
right,
don't think
well,
it's anyone I've ever heard of.
all right. Well, folks,
I saw the trailer. I'm like, that looks like a crazy premise.
okay. Dom is telling everyone that we're going to do spontaneous next week for Valentine's Day. So yep, get your TVs out and do your homework. Try to catch that if you haven't seen it, and yeah, we'll do spontaneous for next week. We'll be spontaneous.
We'll be spontaneous.
Yeah, let's all be spontaneous. So, having said all that, Dom, it was fun as always. Terrific
As
time,
always.
and we will we will meet here next week. So, for everyone, please leave that like and subscribe, and hey, we'll do it again.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.